Welcome back to Cozy Games and Reddit Stories. In these videos, I play a cozy game and read from certain subreddits or stick to a theme. Today's theme is going to be customer service horror stories, and today we're going to be playing Minecraft again. I may have a slight hyperfixation right now, so buckle up because this is going to get a little bit insane at times. Today's first story comes from r/askreddit. Customer service people of Reddit, what are your horror stories? Someone said, I worked in a Borders bookstore for about 9 months when I was a freshman in college. This older woman was apparently making a beeline for the bathroom when she shit herself. I didn't actually see it happen. She left a pile but then kept moving, so she ended up leaving a trail too. My boss informed me that I would have to clean it up. I refused. I have a weak stomach. I just would have added vomit to the mix, and so I was fired. I left. The next day I was scheduled but I didn't show up, obviously. The store manager calls me 30 times into my shift and asks me why I'm not there. I explain I was fired the night before because I refused to clean up shit, because I would have vomited. He starts cursing and ends up telling me I still had a job. My boss got fired for firing me. Apparently she wasn't even allowed to fire people. There were stains on the carpet the entire time I worked there. Another time, in another state, I worked for a mentoring company, sort of like Big Brother, Big Sister. We were not an emergency services company, and we weren't a suicide hotline, but I had a list of numbers to give to people if they were in crisis. This woman calls to say that her daughter is chasing her with a knife and threatening to kill the entire family. She's literally huffing and puffing into the phone running for her life, and I hear her daughter screaming obscenities and threats in the background. I had to put her on hold and call 911. It was pretty horrific. I stayed on the phone with her until the police arrived and everyone was okay, but I never did find out what happened to that daughter. What? Why would you call that instead of 911 being chased with a knife? That's kind of crazy. Okay. Also, it poo. Poo is human waste. That's human waste. That I think that actually requires like a specialist team. I don't think that a untrained retail associate is meant to clean that up, but that's wild. That was the only good story I found on that thread, unfortunately. But that was 11 years ago, so I hope that this person has found a better job now. Our next story comes from r/retail hell. Someone said it's 1 a.m. Let's all hear your worst creepy customer story. Someone said, I had a customer get mad because we were all sold out of an item. After explaining to him for the second time that the item was sold out, he told me I wasn't gonna have a job tomorrow. Fast forward about 15 minutes and I'm getting ready to take my break, but first, I need to use the restroom. This guy sees me heading towards the restroom and makes a beeline for me. I immediately turn around and go back to the back room and tell my team lead there's an aggressive man bothering me. The store lead asks me to describe him, so I do. And he just sighs and says, I know exactly who you're talking about. The store lead decides to do a walk around the store for a few minutes. I still need to pee, so I try once again to use the bathroom, and I see the guy again. But this time he has his phone out and is recording me. The store lead catches the dude as he's shoving his phone in my face and told me to get away from him. So I head to the back again, a little shook up. Another 15 minutes goes by and the store lead comes and tells me he's scared the guy off so I can go and take my break or whatever. I go to the bathroom and then outside for my 15-minute break like I always do, and nope. The guy is there again, sitting in a big black truck, parked illegally at the entrance and glaring at the door. I make a beeline back inside the store and notify the store lead that the guy is still here. He calls the police and they show up. The guy sees the cop car pulling up behind him and peels off. I was not fired, and for the guy, the store lead says he has anger issues and doesn't like being told no. He also told me it wasn't the first time he did that to an associate, but I never saw him again after that. Girl, that's more than anger issues. What? Anger issues is like getting angry and then just walking away. You don't stalk the person around the room and then park up in a car and watch them. That's too much. That's not anger issues. That's issues. That's just issues. Another person said, this one was just last week. An older man says to me, wow, you are so beautiful. Are you 13? I said, no, I'm 32. He goes, but you are so beautiful. And very deservingly so responded to that. Someone said, what the fuck? Another person said, I think this takes the cake for creepy. Others get into scary, outright threatening. This just makes my skin crawl. Agreed. Once again, going to repeat myself. What the fuck? That's no. That's yeah, that's no, actually. That's just no. Another person on this still on this same thread said, not as bad as stalking, but I used to work at a cinema. A guy comes in, gets his seat, then comes out for popcorn. He doesn't have his ticket, so he grabs the ass of the girl ripping tickets and says, so you don't forget me when I need to come back through. And someone responded, mother of God, I'd have instinctively kicked him in the dick for that job, be damned. What? Why? What? Can I just repeat what I said on the last story and just say no? Can I just say no? Thank you. Unfortunately, there's more. This one is, I was ringing up an older man who was fascinated by my tattoos. It was a hot day. I was wearing a tank top, so all my chest and arm tattoos were visible. I was trying to get through the transaction as quickly as possible. He kept saying, sorry, I don't mean to stare, I can't help it. I'm sure you're used to this though. He was ogling my entire body with no shame whatsoever, even after I handed him the receipt and said have a good day. Code 4, we are fucking done here, bye. He still didn't stop. He was leaning his entire body over the counter, asking me to turn, lift my arm so he can see that one, etc. He asked what one tattoo said, and I tried to just tell him, but no. He wanted me to lift my arm and hold it out so he could read it himself. He was practically touching me, and I was trying to lean back into the register as far as I could. It was so fucking gross and violating, especially his mindset that his behaviour is so normal, I'm surely used to it. My manager saved the video recording of this interaction, showed it to the owner and the store of HR, and we came up with a procedure where any employee can say a code word over the loudspeaker, indicating they need a manager to step in / break up a creepy or abusive situation with a customer. I haven't needed to use it since, but I'm glad I can do that next time because I am way too much of a doormat to be able to get myself out of a situation like that on my own. I am so glad they came up with something. They should have had it before that, but at least they recognized that they needed it and they did it. But what the fuck? Why? Just why? It's one thing being creepy before the interaction, but doing it like after you've given the receipt and just that person not walking away is crazy. Insane behavior. I feel like I'm just going to keep repeating myself and just keep saying no. No is the answer to all of these. That's the end of that one. But our next one is still from r/retail hell. Someone said, receipt or regret, retail stories I'll never forget. So I work in retail and have been with the same company for 4 years now, and I swear some days just write themselves. This one in particular still lives rent-free in my head. So one day a customer came in wanting to exchange a gift but no receipt. Already off to a great start. She hands me the item and I immediately clock that this is not from our current collection. Like not even close. I've been with the company long enough to know every line that's come out in the last few years. I have still never seen this design before. I politely explained that without a receipt there's not much I can do. She starts getting upset, saying it was a gift, and she doesn't want to have to ask her friend for a receipt. Understandable, but still, policy is policy. So I decide to take a closer look at the label. Our clothes usually have a small number that indicates the year it was made, and there it was, 18, as in 2018, as in 7 years ago. I literally had a moment of internal panic, like how do I even begin to say this out loud? So I tried to be gentle and said I'm sorry. I really can't do anything without a receipt, and this isn't from the current season. She snaps back and says, well, which season is it from then? And friends, the look on her face when she realised this was a re-gifted item from 7 years ago is priceless. You could see her doing the mental math of how long this gift had been sitting in someone's closet before it was passed on to her. She just awkwardly said, okay, and walked out. Retail is a wild place. You never know what you're gonna get. Might start keeping a journal, honestly. 7 years ago? 2008 was 7 years ago? That's all I take from that. Also, I'm glad that they just realized and was like, oh shit, my bad. Okay, sorry, and just left. And did not like double down on it, because I feel like a lot of people double down on it. This next one is from r/retail hell too. This was a pretty good subreddit to grab things from. Also, it's a pretty good subreddit for people in general who work in retail, because there's a lot of memes and discussions and things like that. But anyway, this one is called To-mato. I had a customer earlier today who had bought tomatoes from our store. They were Roma tomatoes. I had scanned the customer's item as vine tomatoes because I had thought I saw the vine of the vine tomatoes and there was a sticker on one of them, so I typed in the code. 10 minutes later, the guy comes back and is like, we have a problem. You scanned my Roma tomatoes as tomatoes on vine. At our store, the tomatoes on vine were cheaper than the Roma tomatoes, but this guy still wanted a refund. And when he came back with the Romas, he didn't want to help me do the refund, and he was so angry with me. The guy was like, you straight up lied to me, buddy. Like, first of all, I'm not your buddy. Second, tomato and vine were cheaper than the Romas that you bought. And sorry for misinterpreting your tomatoes. I worked a long shift, I'm tired, and you give me attitude problems. Usually I get it right, and a simple apology would have been good on his part. He got his Roma tomatoes corrected, got refunded, repaid, and walk away. Have a nice day, asswipe. Someone said, if the ones rung in were cheaper, how did he end up with a refund and his Romas? Regardless, that guy was a ridiculous baby and we all should be allowed to smack the drama queens. And OP responded, I dunno, some people just want to be honest in life, but still the guy was a fucking drama queen. How did he get a refund? Surely he would have noticed that he got refunded and then paid more. Anyway, moving on to again r/retail hell. Fellow retail workers, what's the stupidest store policy you were made to follow? Someone said, clothing store. We had to wear a belt every shift, even if our pants did not have belt loops. Also had to wear socks from the company, no others. Yes, they were sock inspections randomly, and yes, we were expected to buy belt and socks with our 50% discount. What? That's got a uniform. You can't charge someone for the uniform. At least not where I live. And someone responded to that and said, they got you with the sock inspections too, huh? I worked in a movie theatre, and for a job that mostly employed teenagers, the dress code was stupidly strict. Socks had to be black, even if nobody would normally see them. One day, my last pair of black socks were dirty. No big deal. I'll just wear regular white just this one time, better than not coming in at all. So I walked several blocks in the sweltering July sun to my shift, and who's standing right inside the door with a clipboard but the manager's wife? Right before I say anything, she says, OP, can I see your socks? And then she had me walk all the way home and all the way back with dirty socks. I didn't think anyone would be so petty over something so minor, but here we are. There's no way she saw my socks when I walked in, as my pant legs completely covered them. She was grilling everyone who came in that day about their socks, and had several others sent home as well, and I got caught in her carpet bombing. I, that's I. You can't even see the socks. OP literally said that the pant legs were so long you can't even see the socks, so what does it matter? I guess you could be like, no brightly coloured socks, still they're socks, like no neon pink socks if you can see them, but you can't even see them and they were white. White or black should be completely acceptable, or grey. Just, I guess I could get behind saying no neon pink or neon yellow or whatever. But again, even then, still just socks. Another person said, We have to ID literally everyone, no matter how old they look. It's so irritating. Once I had to ID a woman who was 97 years old. She was mad, which was annoying because I didn't come up with the policy. But honestly, she wasn't wrong. It's ridiculous to have to ID someone who was alive during the Great Depression. We do have the option to override the ID thing if someone looks over 60, but then my manager has to run across the store so I can get her fingerprint for the register to verify it. Another thing about old people is they don't love standing around, so this normally goes even worse than asking for an ID. The policy in the UK, okay, in the UK the policy is think 25, so if you think someone looks over 25, even though you have to be 18, not 25, even if you think someone looks over 25, like, it's fine. If you think they look under 25, then you should ID them, because it's like an 18-year-old could look, or like a 17-year-old could look 18, right? Or like a 17-year-old could look 23. But there's no way a 17-year-old is looking over 25. But over 60? Sorry, 60? You're telling me a middle-aged man with late onset balding is coming in and you're IDing him? That's too much. That's too much. Indeed. At fear of repeating myself. That's too much. Our next story comes from r/ask Reddit, and it's retail horror stories, who's got good ones. Someone said, being a store manager for a car audio store for many years, I have had more than my fair share of retail nightmares, but this one I will always laugh about. A spry, clear-eyed 74-year-old grandmother walks into my shop and wants a new CD player for her car. I ask her, what kind of car do you drive? Oh, a Pontiac Ghoulie, she answers. Oh, what? An '06 Pontiac Ghoulie, she answers, but a little testy this time. Young man, she says, I assume you are a professional and have experience working with many cars, especially cars made in the USA. I happen to drive an American car, which is a Pontiac. Are you familiar with that brand? I answer yes, I am very familiar with every model Pontiac that has ever been made, and never in 26 years have I ever heard of a Pontiac Ghoulie. That's absurd. How can you call yourself a professional when you have never heard of a Pontiac Ghoulie? Now it starts to get real, and customers are starting to tune in to what's going on. Now Grandma is getting downright pissed, and I say, is your car here now? Certainly. I was hoping to get a new CD player, but you inspire no confidence in your knowledge of vehicles or your customer service. And I ask her, well, can I see your Pontiac Ghoulie for myself? Now about this time, 3 or 4 customers want to see this too, because they also know cars, and they have no idea what a Pontiac Ghoulie is either. I ask them to please stand back and let me handle this alone with this customer. Out we go, and there in my parking lot is a 2006 Pontiac 600 LE. Chaos ensued when I had to show Grandma it was a Pontiac 600 LE. We walked back into the store with tears down our face, laughing so hard, and when we told the rest of the curious customers what happened too, they busted a nut laughing with Grandma. She was a peach and bought a new radio, and then returned the next day with fresh-baked cookies and brownies for the staff. She still drives and stops in every now and then with a Pontiac Ghoulie, and we still laugh like hell. That's so sweet. Someone responded to that and said this should have more updates. You prove a customer wrong, but she has a sense of humour and then brings you baked goods. Best customer ever. Wait, this should be another thread. Yeah, it's so sweet that she realised her mistake and she was able to be like, oh shit, my bad. Here's some cookies. It's also so funny that she like got down and so serious and was like, dude, you never heard of this? God, old people are very cute sometimes. I feel like it's hit and miss. Sometimes they are the rudest people ever and sometimes they're just really sweet. Another person said, I could probably swamp you with stories from my time as a deli worker and as a former manager at Target. Here's some highlights though, all from the top of my head. A woman threw her phone at my employee's face when we wouldn't let her return her PS3. It was missing a box and its serial number. An older woman on an electric cart left a trail of poop behind her as she drove around the store. An old man had his grandchildren, ages 3 and 5, go into the bathroom and stuff DVDs into their backpacks for him. A man threw chips in my face and called me a fucking loser when I wouldn't sell booze to his incredibly drunk ass. His friend had just been arrested for a DWI outside the store. A man flipped his shit when we made his sandwich with white vinegar instead of red. Seriously, he acted as if we had slaughtered the last puppy in the world in front of him. He was eventually kicked out of the store since he wouldn't stop having a hissy fit. And my favourite, an old woman called in to complain her printer didn't come with a USB cable. I told her they often don't nowadays, but that she probably had one lying around that would work, and if she'd previously owned a printer. Then she went on about how we shouldn't stock this kind then, and how the world is going to hell, and she shouldn't be surprised as we have a Muslim in the White House. Okay, so she's just a racist. Surprisingly, I somehow managed to retain faith in humanity. In all honesty, I never hated bad customers as they amuse me in the long run. I hated corporate a lot more. That's true, bad customers usually are just kind of funny. Another person responded to this and said not so much a horror story, but upon refusing to allow a man to return a damaged toolbox, he promptly yelled, "Well, I'm going to throw it in the river." Also, I refused to help a woman tie a pool table to the top of her car, because as employees, we would be held accountable if something went wrong. She asked, "Well, can you do it as a friend?" I didn't know her, so I said, "Well, I'm liable as an employee." Of course I wanted to say I'm not your friend, but I tried to be decent. She replied with, "I guess you'll never date my daughter," and stormed off. I did not know her daughter, or care to know. I was even in a relationship at the time. So I replied softly, "Well, okay then." What? 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 All I can say is, oh what? And I think just saying what is a really good end to this video. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I wanted to do a shorter one just to see how it performs compared to the longer ones. But if you do prefer longer ones, please do let me know in the comments because I'm happy to do a mixture of both, honestly. Obviously the shorter ones take obviously the shorter ones take shorter time to do. But yeah, just let me know if you prefer the shorter ones or the longer ones, and if you have any ideas for themes. Also, if you don't drop me a like and a subscribe, then you'll never get to date my daughter. I don't have a daughter, nor do I plan on having children, but I hope that threatens you well enough. And remember that you are loved and everything is going to be okay.